Hey everybody, it's Ed. Today's video will be a little bit different. I am going to read for you, but please don't let that scare you. I'm going to do my best to be able to get through what I want to read to you. But before I even get to that, what I will be reading to you is, I guess really the best way to put it is a good time capsule of what it was like soon after Elvis died. And the information that I am pulling this from is the first King's Court newsletter that was released post-death of Elvis Presley. And even though my parents were no longer in the fan club running it, of course they are mentioned in here, and other things, but that's not what I'm going to read about. What I want to read to you is a first-hand account written by Mr. Jim Morris. And just to refresh your memory, Mr. Jim Morris is pictured here with Elvis, his fiancée, who then became his wife, Pat. There is Jim. And that is my mom, and that is my dad. And again, for those of you who may be just stumbling onto my video for the very first time, these four, well, actually, my father and Jim met while they were standing in line or in queue to wait for tickets back in 1972 when Elvis was playing Madison Square Garden in New York City. They met, they became really good friends. My mom and Pat became very good friends, realized that their love of Elvis was immeasurable, and they had that in common, among other things. And they took it upon themselves to begin a fan club and called it the King's Court, which my channel is named after. And this fan club became pretty successful and provided them the opportunity to be able to meet not only Elvis, but the Colonel as well. Now, these pictures that I'm showing you are from 1973 at the Las Vegas Hilton behind stage. I believe it was August 27th, 1973. If you search online, you see this picture. They have it labeled as August 31st, but that date is not correct. And here's another picture of Jim with Elvis back in 1969 at the International when Elvis was at his first engagement. It was the first week. I don't remember the exact day, but I do talk about that in a different video. All right, but here you can see Elvis has a postcard in his hand. I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but there's a red stamp. Yeah, and boom, there is that postcard with Elvis's photograph. And this was given to my father by Jim back in 1973. So it's been in the collection ever since. All right, so just a little history about Jim Morris. Jim Morris unfortunately passed away some time ago. He is no longer with us. However, he was a huge Elvis fan, would go to concerts, many concerts in Vegas, all across the East Coast and other places as well. Jim was a photographer. He took many great photos of Elvis in concert. Some are seen in these booklets and other places as well. For example, on the Prince from, not on the Prince from the Planet, when they released an Afternoon at the Garden CD back in the 90s, the back photo that they use of Elvis in that pose of him, I don't want to try and recreate it because I'm going to look stupid doing so, was taken by Jim Morris, and he is credited for that. All right, but this, okay, again, this was released shortly after Elvis's death. And Jim Morris wrote an article in here, and it's called Taking Care of Business. And it's 3 pages long, and it's in small type. But I really feel it's worth reading because it's really a great contemporaneous account from the time of how people were feeling. And you know what? I'm just going to start reading. And please bear with me. Hopefully this will be enjoyable and I can get through it without stammering, humming, or stuttering. Let us try. All right, Taking Care of Business by Jim Morris. August 16th, 1977, another hot summer day. Elvis was again on the charts with Pledging My Love and the Moody Blue LP. It was 3 days before he was to kick off another tour and just 6 days before he would appear again in the New York area, the fourth time and 11th show since 1972. There was even talk of a press conference to knock down the Elvis What Happened book. A TV special was already filmed and being prepared. All was well in the kingdom of rock. That was until late afternoon when the shattering reports were coming over the radio and television. The phones were ringing off the hooks. You'll never forget that afternoon for as long as you live. Many things flashed through your mind. They were saying that it was only a report and not yet confirmed, so there was that chance that Elvis was still alive. Maybe he was just sick. Maybe it was even a very untasteful rumor. Oh man, it can't be true. But it was. The news was handled as if it was the greatest statement in the world had died. He was. He was a statement of music. Every radio station played the King's music, even if they had not been in the habit before. The earth stood still. The King was dead. The events that surrounded the next several days turned into nightmare for the legions of fans throughout the world. The two girls who were killed outside the gates of Graceland, how Elvis would have felt over a tragedy such as this, everyone knows. The now publicized book, Elvis, What Happened, and its smiling, smirking author, Steve Dunleavy, were popping up all over. The morning of the 17th had Steve Dunleavy on Good Morning America with Geraldo Rivera. Thank you, Geraldo Rivera, for having the respect for Elvis and knowing how to treat someone of Dunleavy's low stature. Later that morning, Pat was asked to appear on the Stanley Siegel Show, also on ABC. Along with her on the show were Connie Francis, Gordon Stoker of the Jordanaires, Murray the K, Sid Bernstein, Dory Jones, the writer of Rubberneckin', and a few other Elvis songs, and the most sought after, in more ways than one, journalist in the world, Steve Dunleavy. When Pat was introduced, the TV host Stanley Siegel commented, "If you think it was hard to get these celebrities together for this tribute to Elvis, you should have seen the job we had to get a hold of her." Being the president of a fan club, the phone was busy all evening with Elvis friends and club members, and the show's staff had been trying all night to get through. Pat tried to engage in verbal debate with Dunleavy, but was unable to. She did show our picture with Elvis to millions of viewers. With the exception of Connie Francis, Sid Bernstein, and Dory Jones, she would have had a good reason to walk off. She didn't. The fallacies that were stated by Dunleavy, Gordon Stoker, and Murray the K were too much to swallow. Pat was unable to get a word in edgewise. Several newscasters also approached us for interviews. We did one with Roseanne Scarmadello of ABC's Eyewitness News. Roseanne did an excellent job in showing our prized collection of records, photographs, etc., talking to Pat about our devotion to Elvis and our sadness over Elvis's death. Roseanne and her staff were touched by Elvis's rendition of Memories, which Pat played to close the interview. One of our pet peeves is why Carolyn Kennedy was allowed into Graceland while tens of thousands sweltered in the hot sun. By the way, Miss Kennedy was actually on assignment for Rolling Stone magazine. She probably just couldn't give a damn about Elvis. If there was ever a gross injustice, this was it. While this was all going on, the Sharks was setting up on the crowds. The Hawkers were selling pennants, T-shirts, buttons, a steal of our King's Court 1974 color button along with them, and there was a 3-ring circus. I have a certain suspicion about who was behind much of the selling. All that could be said is that the souvenirs came in bulk mighty fast. Too fast. You could take it from there. As many of you written and have the same person in mind. It's a sin, especially someone so close. Unbelievable. Who are they talking about? Ooh. All right, page 2. Excuse me. Elvis's body is escorted in royal style in a stream of white Cadillacs. While thousands watched and millions around the world mourned, this was no ordinary celebrity. This was a man of a king's stature. The President of the United States even eulogized him to a nation. He is laid to rest. The King's Court sent a floral arrangement on behalf of its membership to be laid with the thousands of others. The king is now at peace. When you looked at the papers the next afternoon, all you could do was shake your head in disbelief. You can't imagine Elvis is dead, let alone someone trying to steal his body. You are now sick to your stomach. It's hard to sleep, and when you do, you wake up asking yourself, was I dreaming? But all it takes is one look at your newspaper that you're saving and the ones that you don't even want to read yet. It is true. On Monday, August 23rd, the day of the scheduled concert, a special Elvis tribute is arranged on Nassau Coliseum grounds. The same grounds that thousands of fans had spent many hours waiting for tickets. Former Vice President and Secretary Richie and Angela Hess are instrumental in putting together this special tribute with the help of Diane Winsey, Jimmy, John, and Laura Farrow. DJ Ed Bear of WHN was kind enough to drop by and say a few words. Joanne Donahue contacted the Baptist minister whose eulogy touched the silenced crowd of about 7,000 people. The King's Court made a small donation to the minister's church. Pat read Vernon Presley's letter about the three bodyguards and their book. She quoted Joe Esposito in saying that the book is garbage and that the three men who wrote it are garbage also. Ooh, drama. The crowd responded with thunderous applause. Several slides were shown. Then I showed my personal collection consisting of 700 in-concert slides and movies to a very appreciative audience who also responded with a rousing applause. It was almost as if Elvis was there himself. Bob Vaccato got up about the time Elvis would have appeared on stage and asked everyone to respond as if Elvis was now on stage. The reaction? Deafening applause, whistles, and cheers. He was there in spirit. You could feel it. You had to smile if you looked at the Coliseum's main billboard, which read, Elvis, a friend forever. It always had to be heard in the high heavens. A night to remember. Old friends and people who've had differences of opinion within the past, now shaking hands and forgetting past problems. Elvis is gone. We need each other. Prior to the Coliseum tribute, we stopped at a diner for a cup of coffee. A pretty girl in her late teens or early 20s, her name is unfortunately forgotten now, recognized Pat from a TV appearance and photo button and said that she too was an Elvis fan. She did not know the tribute was set for that night, so when she was informed, she immediately arranged for the evening off. We met her at the tribute, then about a week later at a special Elvis movie showing at Long Island, we again bumped into her. She proudly displayed to us her wristwatch, which now had a flower and the name Elvis tastefully tattooed on it. Such devotion only an Elvis fan understands. I thought you'd appreciate that story. The first time we saw on tour after Elvis had died in a movie theater, not the chopped up version NBC offered us, was perhaps the toughest of the many events. The theater was silent. No need to explain further. Of course, the National Enquirer would have had the unbelievable gall to publish that picture of Elvis. No further comment or I'll fly off the handle. He's talking about the picture of Elvis in his casket. The Rock Awards, after being passed up 2 years in a row for Chuck Berry and the Beatles, he now makes the Hall of Fame. I am now fuming. Had he lived, probably nominee Little Richard or Bob Dylan would have beat him out. What phonies. Elvis made rock universal and should have been first. Of course, Elvis is hot copy and people will watch the show. The only thing that makes the show is a moving tribute by Stevie Wonder, who gave his Male Artist Award to Otis Blackwell, the writer of many Elvis classics such as Don't Be Cruel, All Shook Up, etc. Fleetwood Mac winner in the Best Group category mentioned that without Elvis, it wouldn't all have been possible. and of course the acceptance of the Hall of Fame award by Felton Jarvis, Elvis's producer. Recently, Elvis won the New York Daily News Male Artist Poll. Of course, he deserved it, but would he have won under different circumstances? Then there was the 7th Annual Las Vegas Entertainment Awards on TV. Elvis won the Entertainer of the Year, and there was a tribute by Merle Haggard. Now, consider the fact that for 6 years, his name has not even been mentioned. You take it from there. There will be many awards in the future, probably Grammys and the like. Frankly, who cares now? Elvis was beyond awards. We all know who the greatest entertainer in the world was and still is, for his performance on record could cause more excitement than most of the top stars of the day could in person. As big as Elvis's popularity was, we all always wanted it to be bigger. But, of course, not this way. It has widened so much that it seems that everyone is now an Elvis fan. Before, you would go into a record shop and most of the time be the only one looking at the Elvis material, but now you have to wait in line just to see the selection, unless, of course, it's all sold out now. Elvis does not just belong to the devoted. He now belongs to all, and that's great. Now everyone realizes what they missed out on, but they were all there and can only feel sorry for those who weren't. But we were all there and can only feel sorry for those who finished. My video ran out of room, so I want to read that sentence one more time. All right. Elvis does not belong just to the devoted. He now belongs to all. That's great. Now everyone realizes what they missed out on, but we were all there and can only feel sorry for those who weren't. In recent years, Elvis really pushed himself. He toured about 2 weeks a month, just about every month, if he was very ill, which is the opinion of us and many others that we have spoken to. He didn't have much time to himself to think about it. We really feel that the twisted colon condition was a lot more serious than we were led to believe. This could have been cancerous, and we're sure you heard about these rumors, and would also explain why he would appear bloated at times. This, of course, wasn't a factor in his death, but the stress of it all would certainly take its toll on someone with severe hypertension and a heart condition. We all really feel that Elvis deserved a much-needed rest, vacation. Perhaps he would be here today, but no one knows for sure. He pushed himself to no limit to please the millions who idolized him. However, in pleasing us, he also was pleasing himself. To a Las Vegas audience in 1974, Elvis himself said, quote, "The stage is my life's blood. I can't quit it," unquote. As stated by several close companions to Elvis, he was very happy with his life and did not consider himself a prisoner of his fame. The press is putting the blame on us, the fans, but we shouldn't adhere to that, for Elvis lived as he wanted to and took the direction he wanted to take. We should all be consoled by Elvis's gospel music because through the sincereness of that music, we must realize that he believed greatly in God and a peaceful life thereafter. Again, I would like to thank the many friends I've made through this column and hope that it continues for years to come. I'd also like to thank all of those who have written over the years complimenting the photos I've taken at various concerts. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I enjoyed taking them. As an Elvis fan from 1956 and one of the more avid collectors, I have to consider myself one of the luckiest Elvis fans in the world, having met the King twice, 1969, right there, and again in 1973. And then just for good measure, there they are with the snowman himself, Colonel Parker. Okay? All I can say is that I'll miss Elvis like a brother until we meet again. Sincerely, Jim Morris. And here they printed a picture of the same picture that he provided to my father. All right, now the one that he provided to my father, of course, was a copy made in 1973. But this is his original picture. And when he met Elvis again, he was able to get it autographed. So there you have it. But I really thought that was an interesting article, and especially from Jim's perspective, I thought it had a lot to say. And again, it gives you a really good feel, a contemporaneous feel to what it was like at that time when we lost Elvis. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a comment. If you didn't, you can also leave a comment. All right, but be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Take care, everybody.